Hi, my name is Sonia De Los Santos. My pronouns are she, her, ella. I identify as a woman, Latina y Mexicana. My family is from Mexico. I speak Spanish and English as a second language, and this is what lunging bilingüe means to me.
I'm beyond the moon excited to have you here. I've been a big fan of your music and sharing it with some of the families I work with for quite some time now.
Yes, thanks for having me first, Jade. Thanks you
Yes.
also for checking out my music in that difficult time and sharing it with families, which is why obviously I was making it for. So thanks for helping spread the word.
I'm so excited to have you tell your story. You were born and raised in Monterrey, Mexico, and you came stateside when you were 23, correct?
Yeah, I was born and raised in Monterrey, Mexico, northeast part of my country.
Mhm.
And yeah, I feel like my journey, like I got here when I was 23, but in my mind I wanted to be here since I was like 18.
Yeah.
So I was like preparing myself for it, and right after college I moved here. I wanted to pursue a career in musical theater. I wasn't really sure what was going to happen, but yeah, somehow I ended up devoting my life to making music and music for children and families.
How did being Latina and Mexican influence your music journey?
Well, when I first started playing music for families, I was playing in a band that played more folk music from the United States. I was the only Latina in the group, and the only one who would sing. Not the only one who would sing in Spanish, but yes, as a native speaker, and kind of like they kind of put me as an ambassador in that way of Latin culture, but specifically also from Mexico. So I was looking for ways to represent a little bit of that, and and then I found as we traveled all across the United States and even in other countries that in that particular moment there were some bands that were playing music for kids and family in Spanish, but there was no one that had the sound that I was imagining that could happen, that was a little bit more rooted in the Latin American folk traditions, for not only from Mexico but from different parts of Latin America. And it's so rich and diverse and so good to dance to, and so that's how I started getting this idea of using all my Mexicanidad y Latinidad into putting together this project that is what I do now.
That's wonderful. And what I love about what you're saying is that in a situation where you're in a foreign country, right? You're not necessarily at home in the comforts of your home. You found a way to express your
Mexicanidad.
Mexicanidad. I did it. Mexicanidad. Thank you.
Yeah.
Mexicanidad. While also, it's not easy, as I guess what I'm trying to say, to be in a foreign space, to be, like you said, the representative of your culture, of your family. And here you were faced with what is a huge task. And you said, you know what? Here we go. And this is what I want to see. And this is all the diversity that I want to spring forth. What was that process like for you?
Well, first, I think like when I took that job and when I started in family music, at the beginning I wasn't thinking, oh my god, I don't know, I am the ambassador. Like I still don't feel like I am the only one representative. I represent myself and my story, but I feel like even though my story is a personal one, it does have some things are common with the story of other people that feel connected to my story through my music. um but I say, what I said is, well, this is going to be my version of what I think someone like me with my background and where in my from my hometown, and with my background, specific background in music and my musical abilities, whatever they are or there were at the moment, I was like, these are the resources that I have, and obviously it's passed through like the filter of my own ability, but also of my own musical taste, right? So
Right.
yes, I'm Mexicana but I'm here also, and I'm in New York City, and I have played music with people from other parts of the world, and all of my music is influenced by that. So it's not only, oh, I'm bringing the music from in this case Mexico or
Mhm.
other parts of Latin America. It's just the music that I grew up with, but also the music that I make here with other people in New York City. So it's that's the difference between like just the the music that I would like just having gotten from Mexico to like someone who has been here for a while, the music that I want to make today.
That's wonderful. Yeah, and just that ability to be able to añadir as time goes on from your learned experiences, from everything. And you made a really good point, and something that we've spoken about before in the series. Our season 3 was actually celebrating and honoring folks with Mexican ancestry, but all parts of Mexico, not just one part, but we were looking at folks that had different indigenous affiliations, people who were Black and Mexican, people who just were from different parts of a very large country. So yeah, you're not only your lens, but where you're specifically from, and like you said perfectly, things that you were introduced to or developed while you were here. Was there, or does there maybe potentially continue to be a distinction between Sonia being Mexican in Mexico, in Monterrey, versus being Mexican here?
Yeah, I think it's part of the like that maybe that responsibility that I feel, especially having chosen making music for children and families. That I just feel like that demographic here in the U.S. is growing so much. I go and
Yes.
play in schools and in theaters where school buses come in, and I look out in some part of the country. In some parts it's not a very diverse landscape, but in most of them, Latinos make up a very good percentage of kids in schools these days. So if we have that population there, who's making music for them? Who's making music
Yeah.
that where they hear themselves,
Mhm.
where they can hear something of the music also. Like it's not to say that they can listen to pop music from here,
Of
but like
course. Yeah,
music
sure.
that's a little bit about or Latinidad, or like where our musical roots come from, or just to talk about migration. Like I never thought I was going to be here one day writing songs about monarch butterflies and golondrinas, and here I am doing that, right? Because I thought,
Yeah.
well, it's part of my story, and if I had to choose, you know, a little story that talks about why people migrate, or why birds migrate, well, here's this example, and that's why I do. So I feel like if I was in Mexico, I wouldn't be writing a song about a golondrina for sure. And here, I feel that that's where I wanted to, and that's the first song that I wrote. It was like the first song and like the beginning of the story of who Sonia is, and it just opened up a whole other landscape for other stuff.
Yeah. And I love that idea of evolution, and that the way we evolved is so affected by where we are, the people that we meet. And I think that these are things that we were told maybe, or that we encountered other times, but this so specifically really, really, really influenced the way that your career developed, from being somebody who started off in the theater and can now has evolved into children's music. And we talked very well about how those skill sets really, really like transferred very well. Do you ever miss just doing theater, or are you happy with the way that you're continuing to evolve?
I am really happy with with what I call work, every day.
Yeah.
I feel like from theater I took, just that just spark of like feeling the lights in your eyelashes, and like just the excitement of people on the other side. But I found the way, like I just feel really connected to the songs that I'm singing now, and I don't feel the need to express myself in any other way.
Mhm.
Um, but I'm super grateful for everything, and I think discipline wise, theater would teach you that, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
and I get that from like 8 years being like every week, every weekend in the theater, and practicing and learning choreography, that was really incredible, and that's still in me, right?
Yeah.
But I'm pretty happy, like writing my own songs and
Yeah.
singing those songs and recording them and just going to different parts of the country, and sharing them with audiences of young and old.
Yes, and and I would say you're doing a different form of theater, right? You're still storytelling. It's just in a different way. It's in a different, using a different vehicle. An aspect of theater you've like isolated and gone down this path. It's so well married. I mean, storytelling is so important, and you're doing it more directly for educational purposes. You also talked to me a bit about how your music is a good bridge for folks who have families that have immigrated.
Yeah, part of the reason, like I said, that I started making this music is that, because I couldn't see there were other bands making songs in Spanish, with like Latin rhythms also. But like not quite the way that I imagined it. And I saw a great need for these families, people like you and I that, will have kids here in the US, and they want their kids to, obviously, they're learning English in school. Some of them are, um, speaking Spanish at home, and they're trying to encourage their kids not to, forget about Spanish, even though like with
Yeah.
their friends are going to speak more English. So like my music in this case is like, oh, she's singing in Spanish, like let's practice our Spanish. And also for English speakers, like I have a lot of people who listen to our songs that are, English speakers, native
Yeah.
speakers, and they're learning Spanish as a second language. And just the same way I kind of learned English as a second language listening to songs in English when I was growing up, they are learning some new words in Spanish. And also, just sometimes it's not even about language, but it's about, rhythm and just the music and melody that connects us all.
Yeah.
And even people that come to the shows that they don't understand, like I would present a song in English and then I will go and sing this whole song in Spanish, and they understand all of the words? Maybe not, but I gave them like a word or two to sing along. I gave them some hand motions. I said,
Yes.
yeah, get up and dance if you want to, and just I talk about the feeling of the song, and they can still feel connected. So in that case, the music itself, not only just the language, the musical language is a bridge between between, in this case, the songwriter and the audience. And that's a beautiful thing too. I think, music can do that, and it can connect so much, and just have this openness, about it.
Absolutely. And you mentioned before about like the language learning uh qualities that music provides, and talked about your experience, and I think I talked about a friend's experience, and I try to infuse this in all the children that I teach and all the classes that I have an effect on, how music can really change everything and really just be that gateway into new cultures, into new perspectives. And even, I think about some of my friends who are adults who are really into K-pop, or who are really into things, even languages that they don't potentially have an intention to learn the grammatical structure of, but they feel connected because of music. So that's beautiful that you're able to get, this audience that is so young, and they can learn language so much
Mhm.
easier also is so important. And when you were learning English, I know you said that you started ESL while you were still in Mexico. Music played a huge part in that as well.
Yeah, I feel like, well, where I'm from northern Mexico, and we obviously, I don't know, people from central Mexico or southern Mexico maybe don't have the same, uh, you know, access to
Mm.
content in English, in the 80s and the 90s. But I did in the school that I was studying. I did have some English classes, and I did listen. My parents listened to a lot of songs in English too, and I was curious about it, and I would like, look at the lyrics and the tapes and the CDs, and like try to, copy, just kind of phonetically, even though like I didn't know what everything meant, but I could, and then I would ask. I took some lessons, and that really helped. And I feel like it's such a good way, like music and food, for example. It's another great way of learning about another culture.
Yes.
And if you're able to go to that, country, or or be near that culture and eat and listen to music, you get such a great sense of what the community is like.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
These are goals. These are goals. If I could just travel, eat and hear people speaking and singing in their language, I mean, you get so much. You're absolutely right. You get so much from that, so much style and so much into like the window into like their cultural soul. Where do you see yourself in a couple of years? I asked before, what is Sonia 3.0, 4.0, 5.0? What does that look like for you, your artistry, and where you'd like to see your music go?
I just want to keep doing what I'm doing, and just have a lot more songs. Have have kind of this space in my heart and in my mind and just in my environment and my reality to continue to grow and continue to learn, um, from the people I'm with, from the people who are on the other side of the stage too, which is are the families, and just see how how we can build a better world and a better situation for us all. So I don't know how it's gonna look in 3 5 years, but I do hope I'm still making music and that I'm putting good messages out in the world.
Yeah, bilingual music will change the world. And I should say more specifically, bilingual children's music will change the world, undoubtedly. I strongly believe that.
Me too. I'm glad I'm doing this. Yeah. No, thank you so much for having me in your show. And it's so important to talk about not just like promoting like one show or one song. It's just I feel like it's just great to have these conversations about Latinidad and what it means to be a mix of what we are,
Yeah.
where we are, in the times that we're living in. And
Yes.
yeah, and thanks for doing this. Thanks for giving me the space.